Now we get to Paul's interview. Now, just before I go through it, I just want to say a few things. I was wondering what was his reason for doing this interview. Considering Dan Walker had asked the police did they want to be involved in it, and the police refused to get involved in this, and everything Paul has done throughout all of this, it's not what you would normally see in a grieving person or a grieving partner or somebody that's has a loved one missing. Like, first of all, even at the start, before all of this, ganging up with her sister to call out a medical team to have her sectioned, and to do that to your mother, the mother of your children, because she was drinking too much alcohol. And even the fact that her sister had told the medical team that what she had said about not wanting to be near the children and her not wanting to be here. But then at the inquest, Louise said that she never said anything like that to her. So obviously that information came from Paul. Maybe when Paul called Louise out to see what was going on with Nicola, he told her that she had said this about the children and not wanting to be here, because, like, why would Louise go on to lie at the inquest and say that it wasn't, that's not what she said, or she didn't say that to her? So that's why it really makes me question Nicola's own words to the medical team that she didn't know how this happened. Also, something very unusual is for him to go and use a YouTuber to get information out and point in certain directions. That's not normal behaviour of, as I say, a grieving person or a person that has their partner missing. It's actually, I can't understand why all this wasn't questioned by the police. And any time he spoke, he didn't seem to be with Nicola's family. And when he was doing the interview, you could see that Emma was beside him as he was pointing at her during the interview. And yet, Emma has an interview the same night and she does it through Zoom. But yet it's in the same place, in the same building, but it was to make it look like it was separated. But they weren't, they were actually there together. And remember, Paul's pushing to the police that she's suicidal. It's the whole reason why they were stuck on the river. And he's pushing to her friends, well, close friends, Emma and that she's ran off. And he's pushing to her family that her vulnerabilities, her drinking alcohol and menopause had got to do with her disappearance. And then pushing to the public, pointing in the direction of the caravan park people and the people up at Rowan Water. And he's making everybody look in all sorts of different directions. But the one direction that he's not pointing at, and you'll see the friends don't go on about it either, is the stranger part of it. The red van, or the strange fisherman, or the man in black. Now, why, if your partner or your loved one was missing and you heard about these strange men around the area and this red van parked up close to where, literally very close to where Nicola disappeared, why would you not consider any of that? Actually, why would you push in so many other directions?
Today is 2 weeks since Nikki went missing. This might be a stupid question to start with, but how are you doing? What's life been like for the last 2 weeks?
Hell. I am still here, obviously. My main focus is the children, always has been.
Now, his first comment coming into the interview, I am still here, obviously. My main focus is on the children. Now, knowing what we know now, that he was pushing so hard to point in the direction that Nikki had ran off, or, you know, the ending one's life, he's just showing here that, oh, he's such a great father and he's still there, obviously, you know, looking after the children, but Nikki's not. Especially when he tried to get the mother of his children sectioned, making out like that she was a bad mother, and ringing Anne-Marie and telling her that, oh, she's struggling, and, you know, pointing the police in the direction of the river like she had, you know, went in there. Like, so that's why the police were there. And then even the comment that Emma had made saying, oh, she should be tucking her children into bed and she might not even be in St. Michael's anymore. It even brings me back to his first interview where he mentioned about the children. He said, oh, my main focus is on the girls. I can't elaborate on that, or I won't elaborate on that. That's just another way of pointing towards, you know, Nicola having left them.
So that's my focus that gets me through. But, you know, I think when you're going through something like this, you can't put it into words. I can't say how I'm doing. I can't really explain it because...
Why would he even go and do an interview to make a plea for Nicola and not be able to explain his emotions and what he's feeling?
It's not your average everyday of the, you know, thing. You know, nobody knows really anybody who's ever gone through anything like this, who knows anybody who knows anybody. So it's just an impossible situation for everybody, you know, involved. It's
like saying here that it's not like your average everyday thing, like he probably means every day of the week thing. But he's had 2 weeks here to be able to explain what his emotions, what he's feeling, and he can't even give that. He's showing no emotions whatsoever.
I think that's the thing, because it's hard to imagine what you're going through. Can you even put it into words for us, the sort of emotions that you're feeling at the moment?
anger, utter frustration, confusion, disbelief, surrealism. Nothing feels real.
Now, for me here, his first word, which he's finally given some expression of how he feels, his first word is anger. Like, who's he angry with? And frustrated with? Especially when he's thinking that Nicola's vulnerabilities has something got to do with her disappearance. Why say the words anger and frustration? I can understand confusion and disbelief. But what really bothers me here is he called out 6 things to describe how he's feeling. But it's his lack of words around concern or worry that really, really bothers me.
I was going to ask you that. What feels like you're living someone else's life, or how does it feel?
It just doesn't feel real. Yeah, it's in the Truman Show. Well, I feel like I'm in the Truman Show. Like, I honestly believe I'm going to wake up at any moment.
This was the weirdest description I have heard. And when I first heard this, I wondered, was he trying to speak in code to someone? I wondered why he put the Truman Show in the same equation as I honestly believe I'm going to wake up any moment. As the Truman Show is not about a dream. I don't get the relevance. So having listened to Mind Juice and his analysis of the Truman Show, it made me think of his point about Operation Mindfuck. Then I was wondering, was he actually playing mindfucks with? Like, with the public, with the family, the friends, the police, Peter Falden, Mark Williams Thomas? Was he trying to mindfuck us all?
Yeah, I was just talking to Louise before, Nicky's sister, and we just say the same thing every day. Just, how are we even in this? We're good people. We are good people. We try to live the best life that we can, do the right thing by everybody.
Talking about himself and Louise here, how are we even in this? Like, you should be saying, how could this have happened to Nicola? Nicola is such a good person. She tries to do the best by everybody. But it's about him and Louise here now. How are we even in this? We are such good people.
You appreciate the small things. You know what I mean? This is the kind of thing that you see on the telly in dramas and stuff like that.
Now, I don't know what sort of dramas he's watching, but a drama about a woman going missing beside a river and her dog being found there and her phone there. Not really a drama you would have seen or anything like that. But even referring to dramas and movies, and your partner has gone missing, and you're referring to movies and dramas.
You said that your main priority was the girls. Can I ask you how they're doing? Because, you're missing the woman that you love, but they're missing their mum. And
Dan having to point out here that you're missing the woman that you love. Like, it's like trying to get blood out of stone to get him, Paul himself, to mention that and really nice about Nikki, or that he misses her.
the questions they must be asking you are heartbreaking at the moment.
Yeah, it's impossible. Any parent knows, that all you want to do is make everything better for your children, isn't it? Whenever they're worried or they're scared or anything like that, you want to make it better for them. And I can't do that. So all I can do is be as strong as I can so that they don't see the level of worry on my face. Reassure them as much as I can with.
So when talking about the children, this is when he mentions worry, about the children seeing him worried. But he's doing such a good job, I don't know how the children would see him worried anyway, because nobody else can see him worried.
With what we know, which isn't much, and then try and distract them, so that their mind's not focused on it. I find that's the best way of doing it.
They need hope.
Yeah.
And you've got to hold on to that as tightly as you can. Every time they ask you where mummy is, how does anybody even convey that to when you're going through it as well?
Again, it's just an impossible situation. The only thing that I can do is tell them that everybody is looking for mummy. The best people like in the world are looking for mummy. Just to give them that, you know, that level of hope that they can understand that everything that can be done to find mummy is being done.
I think for the vast majority of people watching on, Nikki is a face on a poster at the moment. Tell us a bit about her. You know, what's she like?
She is fun. She is loving. She is, if you're friends with her, she's the most loyal friend that you could ever have. You know, with Nikki, what you see is what you get. There's no nothing's hidden. You know, it's all, that's her. And she is an exceptional mum, and she absolutely, you know, adores our girls, goes above and beyond.
That was the fakest smile I ever seen. And to go on and describe her as fun and loving, like, that's very little to even say about her. And straight on, that's all he could get out, like, and it seemed like he'd done it through gritted teeth. Then had to go on to, if you're friends with her, like, to talk about friends, because he's probably thinking now what they say about her, to try use that instead, because he can't think of anything really nice to say about her. But then when he goes on to say that she's an exceptional mum and she adores our girls, it's the one time he looks like he's been truly honest here.
I was saying to Emma the other day, I don't think that she's been away from them, like, for more than like 1 or 2 nights, you know, since you know, we've had, you know, our eldest, and she's a pillar of strength, you know, to our family, and without her, you know, the whole is.
Now, when he brought Emma into the equation there, and he was thinking for a minute, and he mentioned that Nicola was a pillar of strength. And then afterwards, in the next interview that Emma does, you will hear how she mistakes that Paul meant that it was her, Emma, that was the pillar of strength. I wondered why she would think he was referring to her about being the pillar of strength. But then I thought about it. He was trying to think of stuff in his head to say about Nicola. But he was saying he was talking to Emma the other day. So when he thought of Emma, he thought of something he had probably mentioned to Emma. Oh, you've been so good helping out and all that, and you've been a pillar of strength. So that's why when Emma heard that, if you remembered, Paul had said that to her. So he used something that he had told Emma, something nice that he had said to Emma, and used that to describe Nicola. And if that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised if he used all those words to describe Nicola as coming from someone else, or stuff he thought about someone else.
Yeah, bigger than
2 weeks today, that morning of Friday, the 27th of January. Yeah. Was it a normal morning like any other?
Yeah, totally normal. So the only difference that morning was, you know, usually, you know, when you've got children, getting up on a school day, you know, you probably know yourself, is just mayhem, isn't it?
Carnage, yeah.
Yeah, absolute carnage. So the only difference on that morning 2 weeks ago was that there wasn't a lot of rushing. I came down and a lot of stuff was already done. It was, you know, the girls were having a breakfast and everything was pretty much ready to go. I came down and Nikki went upstairs to get ready. And then, you know, the routine is basically if Nikki's taking the girls and Willow, when I hear her come down, I'll get them in the car, get them strapped in, get Willow in the boot and all that. And Nikki comes out, give her the keys, and off they go.
So it's a well-oiled machine normally. And sometimes you walk the dog and take the kids to school, and on that morning it was Nikki's job.
Yeah, and then if it's my job, usually the roles are reversed.
Now, at first he says things were totally normal. But then Paul makes a point that Nicola had things more organised than usual. Now, why would he point this out? I'll tell you why. This points to someone being organised if they're going to unalive themselves, and he knows that. Why else would he mention this? He had to keep this up, as he had already told police this is what her mental state was, and also telling Amory Fletcher the same. But the thing is, Louise, her sister, said Nicola was a very organised person, so it would be in her nature to organise her children in the morning. Now, us parents do know what it's like in the mornings, so what organising is he talking about here? The children seem old enough to dress themselves. And perhaps Nicola made them breakfast, as he said they were having their breakfast when he came down. And she probably made their lunches, so how would that be mayhem? Now, how would you label her having those things done more organised than usual? He said himself he worked till 1 a.m. the night before when he was at the inquest. And the sight of him on the CCTV, you could see by the head of him, he wasn't long up out of bed. My guess, she had those stuff done because he took so long to get up. But then he goes on to say that on the mornings Nicola takes the children to school and Willow for the walk, his job is to strap them into the car and put Willow into the boot. But if that's his part in the process, why the need to point out the jobs Nicola normally does in the morning were already done, when that's what she normally does? So in fact, the only difference that morning is that she had everything that she normally does done in a quicker time. Or just put it like this, she had it all done before he got out of bed.
Yeah. So yeah, again, it was just nothing out of the ordinary. Everything was normal, you know. Because my working hours, because I work for a US firm, so my hours are like 6 hours behind UK time. So I don't usually start work till a bit later in the morning. So when Nikki takes the girls to school, I then know that I've got like an hour to myself on that morning when she takes them. So I always quite look forward to that, you know, because I wave them off and then I go in the house and I put the kettle on, make a cup of tea, and I think, right, I've got an hour.
Bit of peace.
So here he is talking about this hour that he gets to himself, and he quite enjoys it. And he seems happy talking about the hours of peace. But the last time that he got this, his partner disappeared and he still hasn't found her. But yet he's able to talk about this hour of peace that he does get, which obviously happened as well on the morning that his partner disappeared. And he seems in happy mood when he's talking about it.
What point are you thinking something's not right here? When did it feel, where's Nikki? At what point did that kick in?
So she's usually back like 9:45 average, 10 o'clock. You know, at a push.
Now, remember, after Paul's first interview, people were questioning why he wasn't concerned at that time for Nicola. And he got his friend to tell Grizzly True Crime that Nicola normally got home around 10ish or after. And sometimes it was later because she'd go to the shops, and the shops are a bit further away. And she had done that many times before, and getting home around 11 wasn't problematic. But also mentioned to Grizzly True Crime about the meeting that she would have at 11. But doesn't mention the meeting in this interview, but goes on again to the inquest and mentions the meeting.
So I'd gone up into the office at 10, thinking that she'd be back in a minute. So I logged on. I was just going through some emails and stuff, you know, setting my day up. And it got to say 10:15, and that's when I thought, you know, she's later than usual, but I still wasn't like particularly worried because she has come back at 10:15.
So he's saying here that she's later than usual, but has got back between 15:15 and 10:20. She might have got to talking to someone. But you wouldn't class that as later than usual. All right, it's not average, but it has happened. So, you know, you wouldn't factor it into an equation of being concerned.
Sometimes, like you might just get talking to Emma or
find
another
a friend
mum.
on a dog walk.
or anybody. So, you know, it's not often, but she has got back at about 10:15, 10:20. So again, I wasn't like massively concerned or anything. Then it got to 10:30, and that's when I thought, you know, she's, you know, quite late now, more late than usual. So I tried ringing.
So at this stage, by his own words, Nicola is actually 10 minutes later than what she has came home before when she has been talking to people. Or if you were to go back to what Grizzly says, it wasn't problematic to come home around 11. So why the need to ring Nicola if she's 10 minutes late?
Her phone, and there was no answer. I tried ringing her on WhatsApp, and again there was no answer. So I tried the mobile again, and no answer. So I couldn't get her. I started to get a bit panicky, I think.
So here he says that he called her phone, and then he called her on WhatsApp, and then called her on the phone again, and there was no answer. But from the inquest, we know that he tried to ring her 6 times. And the call started at 20 to 11, not 30:30. And he tried to call her 6 times and then sent a WhatsApp message. Now, Nicola is not like extremely late, considering he said she normally gets back, she sometimes gets back around 15:15 or 20:20. But as I say, when the friend had said it to Grizzly, her getting home at 11 wasn't problematic. So this, he has to show that he's concerned, but not overly concerned. But it was a bit of overkill contacting, like trying to ring her phone 6 times. And then sending her a WhatsApp message. Are you lost? Like, that's strange. Then he says that he started to get a bit panicky, he thinks. If by going what he says and what his friend has says, if she could have been talking to someone or in the shops, she's hardly going to answer the phone and be ignorant to, say, if she's at the checkout in a shop or talking to somebody, she's hardly going to pick up the phone. So why would you be panicky over that, her not answering the phone?
So that's when I thought, right, I'm going to have to go down there and see if she's all right, you know, see if I can see the car or you know, see what's going on. But I still expected that I'd just get there and just, oh, there she is, you know.
So this even seems a bit like overkill again, that he has to go out in the car to go and find her and see where she is. Even if it was an hour late, could you imagine, like, in a normal situation, any of us, and we're an hour late back from somewhere, or a half an hour late, or 20 minutes late from somewhere, you wouldn't expect your partner to come looking for you. So this, again, seems like a bit of overkill. Like, who does that? Who goes looking for their partner if they're a few minutes late? And even the fact that he said, oh, she might have got talking to Emma. He could have rang Emma to see, oh, were you talking to Nikki this morning or something like that. Like, it seems a bit excessive having to go out in the car and look for her. All right, we know that she ends up missing, but he doesn't know that. So he shouldn't be that dramatic about it.
So I go to the gym on a Friday lunchtime. So I quickly got my gym stuff on because I just thought basically I'm going to go out, find her, come home, do a bit of work.
Carry on.
Yeah, lunchtime, go to the gym.
So I wondered why he had to go into details about the gym, these extra details, as normally when someone goes into extra details like that, there's something up. And I thought about then, like, he had to explain why he was dressed and ready to go out the door, rush out the door when Nicola was reported missing.
We're going to leave.
Now, he says, we're going to leave. And I did think that he meant like himself and somebody else. But then I thought about it, that if he's going over it so much in his head, what he's supposed to say, and he's saying, you have to say you were going to leave, automatically, sometimes it'll come out because you've went over it and over it in your head, that he came out with, we're going to leave, like you were going to leave, because he had said it so much in his head. Instead of saying, I was going to leave.
We're going to leave, and then the phone rang, and it was the school.
Now, the school wasn't contacted till 10:50. But the actual phone call to Paul from the school was at 10:54. And Paul's last call to Nicola was at 10:47. And he sent a WhatsApp message at 10:48. So that left 6 minutes between his last contacting Nicola, when he said that he started to get ready into his gym gear to go down and find her. So that left 6 minutes. So he got ready very quickly, and he was ready to go out the door, he said, before the school contacted him at 10:54.
And it was the receptionist at school, and she said, Mr. Ansell, it's a bit of a weird one. Hello. So it's a bit of a weird one, but we found Willow and Nicky's phone on the bench, and the harness halfway down the embankment on the floor. So,
you're already worried at this point.
Yeah, because I'm just about to leave. So I've got my gym stuff on. I'm about to leave, thinking I'm gonna see her, pass her, get there and find her. Then I get that call, and in an instant, it's like your whole.
Of course.
Because I knew straight away that it wasn't normal. You know what I mean? Like, because I said, well, where is she? And like, but they can't find her. So I also know that she would never in a million years leave Willow. Like, Willow is like our third child. So I know, like, she'd never, like, the fact that Willow's just in the field on her own, off the lead, obviously extremely concerning.
Now, saying here that Nicola would never leave Willow, she's like their third child. But then he's also pointing at other times that she would leave Willow, that she might have ran off, or pointing in the direction of ending her life and things like that. It's the only time that he mentions that she wouldn't have left Willow. Because obviously he wants to point that this whole scenario was very concerning.
So, obviously, I'm just in a mad panic then, because I got hit by that weird. It's like your world just drops out because something's weird has happened. So I got in the car, drove down there, ran down the river.
So now he says that he's in a mad panic and that he drove down there and ran down to the river. And the school contacted him at 10:54 a.m. And at 10:56 a.m., he's captured on Ring doorbell going out and getting into the car. But at 10:57 a.m, he's already in the car. He rings Amory Fletcher. Now, it doesn't take long to get from his home in Inskip to St. Michael's. So I'm wondering, was he driving while talking to Amory, or was he sitting outside in the car making this phone call to Amory? Because this phone call to Amory lasted 3 minutes and 10 seconds, where he went on to explain to her that Nicola was struggling. Now, we already found this strange that he contacted Amory and spoke to her that long on the phone before even contacting the police. But we're supposed to believe that he was in a mad panic to get down to the river to see what's going on, because he knew there was something not right, because Nicola would never leave Willow on her own. But yet, he thought it important to ring Amory and tell her that Nicola was struggling. Why the need to do that and point that out to Amory when you're in a mad panic to get down to the river? Now, as I said, I don't know if he just sat outside in the car and rang Amory, or he was already driving. If he was already driving when he rang Amory, he would have probably just been in St. Michael's at that time. So then he contacts the police, and he contacts them. It's close to 11:01 a.m. And that phone call lasts 9 minutes and 10 seconds. And he goes on to say that he contacted the police on the way. So, all in all, from the time he got into the car, it was 13 minutes between the phone calls to Amory and the police. So the police gave an approximate time of Paul arriving at the bench at 11:10, and that's going by him saying, well, them knowing that he contacted them at 11:01, and by the time he arrived at the bench, because he was on the phone to them for 9 minutes and 10 seconds, so they gave an approximate time of 11:10. But for him to make it there at that time, it must have meant that he was sitting around in the car at some stage talking on the phone. Now, that could have been the time he was talking to Amory.
To where the bench is, somebody had Willow, and obviously there was a few other dog walkers there and stuff like that. Handed me Willow, handed me Nicky's phone. I still expected, obviously, to just have a look around and, well, there she is, or there she is. So, you know, we're all looking. I'm like walking off into the field that way, like looking around the corners, looking over the hedge, looking over the stile, and, you know, nothing. But I'd rung 999 on the way, because I obviously knew something was wrong. So the police rang me then, while I was at the bench, and said, look, you've got to get home, because the police are going to be coming to your house. We need somebody at your house. You get home, the police are on the way there. So I'd rung the police at like, I think about 10 to 11, and they were there, like they got there 25 past. So they were there, you know, really, really quick.
Now, first of all, he said he contacted the police at 10 to 11, around 10 to 11. Now, it's 2 weeks on since his partner went missing. You'd think he'd know the time that he had contacted the police at this stage. Now, he didn't let anyone know that he contacted Amory before the police. He certainly wouldn't have wanted Nicola's family to know that he had contacted Amory before the police. That's why he didn't mention it in the interview. And then he said that the police contacted him while he was there. So if he got there at 11:10, and he said that he had a look around and all that, and he seemed quite shocked that the police arrived there at the home at 25 past. But obviously he was home at this stage. So like within 10 minutes, he had checked around for Nicola, had received the phone and Willow from the walkers that were there. And like obviously he would have spoke to them while he was there. So he couldn't have done that much searching for Nicola in 10 minutes if he was back at the house waiting for the police, who arrived there at 25 past. Because obviously he checked the time. And it's very strange that in the contents for the inquest, nowhere does it say that the police rang Paul back. Like, there's nothing, I can't find anything on it where the police contacted him while he was at the bench. Could it be an oversight, or is there something in it they don't want us to know about? But also that phone call would have took a couple of minutes as well. Like, so the timeline doesn't add up, if you know what I mean.
So I then, I'd gone home then, taken Willow back. Police officer would come to the house. And, although I was obviously extremely worried and concerned, I still expected at any second she'd just go, "Oh, we found her. We've found her here," or whatever. And that, that never happened. Like, that was just the day then just spiraled, and end of the day came, and no answers. Here we are, 2 weeks later.
I thought this was really shitty. That he wouldn't go down that day and stay searching for Nicola. Like, even if the police told you not to do that. Like, when you love someone, you would get up off your hole and you would go look for them. You wouldn't sit around and wait.
A bit about who Nikki is. Was she ever the sort of person who might go away for a night or leave for a few days? You know what I mean?
It's about as far out of character as you could get. I truly mean that. Like, even as a couple, on the odd occasion, if we ever do have a night away from the girls, because the girls are our world. Like, we go out for meals, the girls come with us. Our whole
family.
Yeah, everything that we do is, the girls are in it, they're involved in it, and that feels right. That's how we love it. We love our little family. We love our world.
Now, he couldn't tell a lie here because Nicola's family's watching, so he couldn't possibly lie about this. I remember the first time I realised he was pointing towards the direction of running off or, ending her life. I wondered, did something like this happen before, or, is that why he's thinking this way? But him having to tell the truth there, that was so out of character for Nicola, then it couldn't possibly be because she had done it before. So what makes him think that she would do this now?
And your gorgeous dog Willow's been spending a bit of time with us as well, and it's also that thing that Willow may well have seen.
I know.
To Nikki.
I know, and that's another layer of frustration and hell to it. It's a hellish situation with the layer of hell that not knowing what's happened yet. And then also having Willow, who probably does know what happened, but she can't tell us, can she? And she's a very sensitive dog. I did take her back there first thing on the Saturday.
So the next day?
The next day, yeah, I took her back there first thing.
How did she react to that then?
Well, I was praying and hoping that once we got to the gate that she would do something different, just to
take you somewhere.
Yeah, just give some sign of some kind. But she, bless her, she just went through the gate like any other normal day and ran into the field and looked at me excited that she was there for a walk. I was saying to her, "Where's mummy? Where's mummy?" And she was just looking at me like, let's go for a walk.
Now, I wondered here why he left out the part that his friend told Grizzly that Willow did in fact react, but it was up at Rowan Water. Why did he leave this part out?
There's been a lot of publicity around Nikki's disappearance, isn't there? And I suppose you are one of those stories that is very much talked about on social media at the moment. I don't know whether you've read the stories, the accusations, all the theories that are out there. Does that upset you, or are you happy that people are talking about and trying to find a solution?
It would be upsetting, of course, if I let myself read it all. Don't get me wrong, I have seen some stuff. Most people have been amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you're always going to get that 2% of people that, for whatever reason, you know, say and do not very nice things. But I don't want to give any energy to that.
I'm not surprised that people were talking about it, because he done so many strange things throughout the case. Like even this, going and doing an interview against the police wishes. Like normally you'd see a family interview or anything like that with police.
Like my energy is just finding Nikki. I read one that said the police need to look at the partner, and I'm sort of like, well, yeah, that's the first thing that they do. Like, of course it is.
Yeah.
You know, like I knew that would happen. You know, on the first day.
Now, how would he know that that would happen on the first day? Why would he be even thinking of that when he's just after finding out that she's missing? Why would he even think like that?
I said, you expect that, don't you? Yeah.
I expected that. I said to them, do it and get that out of the way, and then focus on
finding her.
On finding her, and focus on the rest of it.
So is he saying here that the police did actually look for an alibi off him? Or did he just offer himself up to the police to check him out? Like, if that's the case, why would he even do that?
That's exactly what we did. You know, it was that was done, ruled out, obviously, and then move on.
Now, I wonder, did the police tell him he was ruled out? Or is that him making an assumption? I know, obviously, now they didn't think anything of it. But I'm wondering, at the time, did they actually tell him that he was ruled out? I know his friends came out in support of him, saying that the reason why he was ruled out was because of CCTV. It just seems like a bold statement to make when the police didn't actually say anything to the public about that. And so I wonder, did they say that to him? Because CCTV doesn't always rule out a person. I'm not saying now Paul done anything wrong. I'm just saying about the CCTV. It doesn't always rule out a person, as people can be paid to do something, or a person could know about somebody that done something, or CCTV can be doctored. I'm not saying that's this case, but it can happen. So it seems strange that the police would turn around and tell him, oh, you're ruled out.
So, you know, whatever, you know, people want to say, and you know, if that's what they want to think, that's their business. It's not mine.
But I know you've also been struck by the amazing response locally, and you know, just being here for today, everybody's talking about it. Everyone's asking how you are, and the local community, whether they're standing out on the street corner or putting posters up or just asking questions, they are doing an amazing job. Yeah,
it's absolutely incredible. Like, it's heartwarming. It's given us an immense amount of strength, and it's kept that hope so high that we can't thank them enough.
how are you keeping it? Is that the kids? Is that your natural positivity?
It's all of those things. Of course, it's the children, of course, but I am naturally a positive person, and I believe that you get out of life what you put into life, and that's how we are as a family. And so, what we're going through now is like unprecedented hell, but that hope and that positivity in me is stronger than ever, and I'm never ever going to let go. Nikki would never give up on us ever. She wouldn't give up on anybody, and we're not going to ever give up on her. Like, we're going to find her.
You see, this is different than the image he's painting of Nicola when he's using a YouTuber and what he's telling the police and what he told Anne-Marie Fletcher, and, you know, giving little snippets for people to think a certain way, and then goes on the interview, but obviously aware that Nicola's family is watching, has to be careful what he says. So he seems to be telling different things to different people.
We were talking earlier, and you were saying that one of the plans you had was to get married during the pandemic, but you sort of, like many people, you had to abandon those plans. Is that something that you think, you know, when she's back, this is what we're doing?
Yeah, I'm far too laid back sometimes for my own good, but also my attitude is, you know, we'll get around to it. It'll be fine. And so we have obviously spoken about, you know, marriage many times before, and then we had the children. When your children are, you know, obviously, you know, little, it's, you know, all time consuming, and then as they were growing up, we always said when they're a bit older, you know, it'd be a nice time to do it, and they can be a part of it. They can, you know, be the bridesmaids and everything. So that was always the plan. And so, you know, it's just now. You know, it's something that we would have obviously, you know, spoken about it and moved forward with again, but and still will.
There is a chance, isn't there, that somehow she might be out there even watching this. If you could say something to her, what would you say to Nikki now?
Just how much I love her, how much us as a family love her and need her, how well thought of, how much her friends love her and need her back, and we're never going to be the same until she is back. Just come home.
These words at the end really, really bother me. Just come home. Because, like I was saying throughout it, the way he's been pointing that she had left or had ended her life. But saying these words, just come home, like, that's not a proper plea for Nicola. He doesn't seem concerned in that plea. He doesn't seem concerned that something might have happened to her. Or when he wrote out on the yellow ribbon for the bridge for Nicola, he used similar words. Nikki, I love you. Come home now. I don't think he really did believe that. I think he only used that for sympathy with her friends and, you know, the close people. And it was just an excuse for that. I don't think he really believed it.
Are you going to be okay?
I will, as long as she comes home. But yeah, I have to be okay for the children. But obviously the hope inside me that she's going to come home. That I can't let myself, you know, think of anything else. It isn't an option in my head. We deserve a happy ending to all of this. You know, you can't have this level of support, this level of love and compassion and hope and prayers without getting the reward from that. In my mind, that is impossible. You know, when you think of all the hope and everything that's going out there, it has to come back. And that has to bring her home.
I really appreciate you talking to us. I know it's impossibly difficult. You've described your life at the minute as a living hell. I hope what you said makes a difference as well. And I think everybody watching this will join me in saying that we all hope that Nikki comes home and that she is safe and well and you can be back together.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. What do you think might have happened?
We've always tried to keep all options open because we don't want to shut down any avenue. We've always been very careful that we don't want to say, oh, we think it's that, and then push that when it might not be. The most obvious thing, of course, has always been the river. It's always been my gut instinct and her sisters and family that that isn't the case. Extensive searching, you know, is probably well aware has gone on in that river. I mean, they were in there, you know. I mean, I have to categorically say I cannot fault the police in any of this. They have been incredible, and the relationship that we have working on this is very, very strong. It's very good. So that this isn't any criticism of them at all. I want to make that clear. But the fact that they were in the divers and underwater rescue team and all that were in that river on the day, and thankfully found absolutely nothing in the part where you would, I guess, have to presume is her last known location. If you take all those things into account, the unlikeliness of it, you know, you would have to sort of say that really the river isn't what happened. And so we always felt that the mobile phone and...
You see, actually it was Nicola's parents that didn't believe that she had went into the river, as there was no evidence of slip marks or anything like that. So he wasn't going to be able to go against her parents' belief that she wouldn't go in the river. And the police weren't giving him the information, as they wouldn't give all the information. They wouldn't give it to the public, family, friends, anybody, of what they knew about the river and what evidence they had or anything like that. Lo and behold, they brought in Peter Falden to see what information they could find out about the river, and if she could have went into the river there. And finally, at the inquest, he just gives up and believes she did go into the river. Now, I'm sorry about this next bit of the video, the ending of the video. For the last couple of minutes, the video is frozen, but you can hear the voice. But this is the only video I have. So, and as I say, it's at the end of it, so it shouldn't really matter. It's the words that matters.
The harness and everything, it could possibly be a decoy. Again, we don't have evidence.
No, but these are things that you naturally would think about, because, you know, the team's call was still active at the time, wasn't it? And the Willow's harness is on the floor, and, you know, I'm sure these are things that constantly you're thinking about.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, like, the only thing we're bothered about is finding her. Like, there's nothing else matters. That's the only thing that we're bothered about, is just finding her. So, you know, it's of course you're going to be thinking these things. And so the more searching of the river that went on, the more confident we were that it wasn't the river. You know, especially things like, again, you know, it's not nice talking about it, but at the same time we've taken hope from it. The fact that no item of clothing or anything has been found anywhere where you would have thought something, you know, would have...
Something might have been found, yeah.
Yeah, and absolutely nothing. So, for me, personally, and again, this is just my opinion, I'm 100% convinced it's not the river. That's my opinion.
And I suppose the question after that is, what then? And and the difficulty is you allowing your mind to think where she might be and what's happened to her, which is horrible as well, I imagine.
Yeah, it's horrendous, because people don't just vanish into thin air. It's absolutely impossible. So something has happened. Something has happened. Find out what it is. Find out what it is. There has to be a way to find out what happened. There has to be. You cannot walk your dog down a river and just vanish into thin air. Something happened that day. Something. Find out what it is. And my plea now is, personally, I want every house, every garage, every outbuilding, the land scrutinised. I want it all searched. I want it all scrutinised. Every piece of it.
So now he wants everything moved away from the river. He wants the police out there. He wants all the land everywhere searched. He wants them away from the river.
And you're not going to appease me with anything else. That is what I want to happen, because for something to have happened there, it's not many. You would only know that area by local people. It's a local area. We walked down there for years, and I mean years. You see the same faces every single day, and on the very odd occasion when you see somebody that you don't know, they stand out like a sore thumb.
Now you see here the way he's pointing away from it being something got to do with strangers. That's what I was explaining earlier on, that they never questioned about the fisherman or the man in black or the red van. They didn't want you looking that direction at all. And he mentions that for something to have happened there, and he mentions locals twice. Now we already know that they're pointing through Grizzly, through crime, they're pointing in the direction of the caravan park and Rowan Water. And he's mentioned locals twice here. So he wants everybody out of the river, but wants them over towards the caravan park and Rowan Water. And is that just a coincidence that when everybody's gone away from the river, her body just happens to show up in the river?
And I think that's an important point to make, because there might be some people watching this thinking, why are you doing this? Why are you talking to us? And the reason you're doing that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, is because you feel that somebody out there knows something, and that's the appeal that you're trying to make. Yeah,
definitely. And I'm just pleading with them. Just please, anything, no matter how tiny, just please, just come forward with it, please, because that could be the key to finding her. And as a family, we're not bothered about anything else. Like, there's nothing else. The only thing is we just have to find her.
Now, there was a couple of other things that I forgot to mention throughout the interview, and I just want to point them out as well. You know, when he said he was quite concerned that Nicola hadn't came home, and he was so concerned that he felt the need to drive down there to see could he find her. Now, if you were concerned about your partner, she had went off to drop the children to school and hadn't come back. But next minute, the school called you. Now, for me, I'm going to give my opinion, what the first thought would be in my head. And I'm wondering what the first thought of any other of you that are parents, the first thought that would come into your head when you'd see the school number flashing up. You'd think, well, this is the way I would be, that, oh my God, did her and the children make it to school? Like, were they contacting about the children not being in school that day? Because that's what schools do. If they don't, if the children don't turn up, they contact the parents. So that'd be my first thought. I can't understand why he never mentioned that, and like that he thought he was worried about the children as well the minute he saw the school ringing. But also the fact that even when he said he was concerned that Nicola didn't return, it still never registered with him. Could have an accident or happen on the way to school. Like, he never showed any concern for the children. It was just about Nicola. It was like he knew it was going to be about Nicola, not about the children, if you know what I mean. Now, that's just my observation on it. But as a parent, as I said, that's my feeling on it. Also, he said that he tried to ring Nicola on WhatsApp, but by the call records, he didn't ring her on WhatsApp. He sent that message, "Are you lost?" Now, I can understand he didn't want people to know that he sent that message, but he lied saying that he rang her on WhatsApp. But also, he downplayed the amount of times that he rang her, because he didn't want to seem overly concerned. But knowing what we know now, he kind of overplayed it. So, like, that is suspicious. I would also like to know whether every exit from the house is covered by CCTV. Like, even windows as well. Because, you know, to rule somebody out, I'm not saying like that he done anything wrong, but I'm just saying that to categorically say that, oh, CCTV ruled somebody out because they were captured at that certain time. But wouldn't you want to make sure that every exit is captured on CCTV, even windows? And the reason why I'm saying that is because when he mentions we're going to leave, I didn't want to go into too much details there if it was another person with him, because Mind Juice done a great part on that. So if you'd want to go and look at Mind Juice, his part on that about the we're going to leave. So that's why I just gave my opinion of what it could mean. But as I say, I didn't want to go into details of if it was another person, because Mind Juice done a great detail on that. So check that out.
Let's speak now to Emma White, who is one of Nicola's best friends, who's speaking to us tonight from our home in Lancashire. Emma, thank you so much for spending a bit of time with us this evening. Can I ask you, what have the past 2 weeks been like for you?
You can't put into words the roller coaster we've been on the past 2 weeks. It's the heartache, the torture, the disbelief, washed down with this immense hope. and then we've got this drive and focus to bring Nikki home. And then we've had to put emotions aside, being that support for Paul and the girls and my family, and just putting that brave face on, telling them everything's all right, but equally being honest with them, knowing that Nikki is missing and the girl's mum is missing. No 2 days has been the same, no 2 hours been the same, and just waiting for that good news and keeping that hope at the forefront of our minds.
We've heard a lot from Paul tonight, Nikki's partner, and he's told us a lot about the Nicola that he loves. What about the Nicola that you know so well?
Yeah, I think just from seeing her face out there, she's touched the nation, hasn't she? And everything that you see and a little bit more is what she is inside. She's beautiful, she's caring, she's thoughtful, she's kind, she's funny, she's loving, the most loyal friend. She's the stuff that dreams are made of, and we've laughed, we've cried, everything in between. And then you take Nikki's lovely, amazing qualities, you add Paul's in there, and then we've got these two little human beings that we have to do everything to bring Nikki home and bring their mummy home for them.
I know that you and many other people have put everything on hold over the past fortnight, helping the family and helping the police as well. The community response has been incredible. I was up in St Michael's on Wye today. There's people everywhere on street corners holding up posters of Nikki everywhere. Has that struck you? I know you're a close-knit community anyway.
Yeah, we are a close-knit community, but that community near and far has united. Oh, it's been fundamental in raising the profile of Nikki's disappearance, generating those lines of inquiry. What I cannot stress enough is please keep those lines of inquiry, please keep them factual. Don't clog that 101 line that we really need to have that factual information come through to give the police lines of inquiries. Even the locals, with all the disruption they've had on the village, they've been so supportive. We've all got the end goal to bring Nikki home. Then we've got Peter and the SGI group offering their time and expertise to cement the great work that the police have done. And then the acts of kindness from everybody is just unimaginable. And I'd personally like to thank every single one of you, family, friends, strangers. It's the simple act of kindness that have made the biggest difference. And the strength that it's given me to then be able to be, I heard in Paul's interview, that pillar of support. With people supporting me, we've been able to support Paul and the girls, and I cannot thank everybody enough. And we need to bring Paul and the girls there rock home to bring Nikki home.
The only thing I'm going to point out here is about the mistake that Emma made when Paul said that Nicola was a pillar of strength. Emma thought he was speaking about her. But as I said, it was probably something a word he had used, or a sentence he had used already, to say to Emma that she was a pillar of strength. And when he was trying to think of words, and he was just after speaking about Emma, he probably thought in his head, oh, that was a good thing that I said to Emma. I'll probably say this about Nicola. So moving on to the 11th of February, we're back to Grizzly True Crime. She goes on about Paul's interview and that he was 100% sure she wasn't in the river. And that he reckoned there was someone local involved, because it'd have to be someone that knows the area and knows that camera up there at Rowan Water is not working. Again, keeping people away from the stranger theory and keeping people away from the river. Points out then about that Paul had said everything was more organised that morning. And then she mentions that Willow was at the groomer's 2 days before. So if her hair was shorter and she went into the water, she could have dried much quicker. So throwing that in about Willow in the river, just in case at any stage it comes back to the river theory. On the 12th of February, most of the mainstream media were all talking about the interview with Paul. On the 13th of February, the mainstream media was talking about Mark Williams Thomas, how he had agreed to go to the scene and do some investigating. On the 14th of February, we had interviews from Charlotte Drake, Nicola's neighbour.
Adding her own ribbon of hope to the bridge here, Nicola's next-door neighbour and friend, Charlotte, adding her voice to calls for the investigation to be broadened out.
It's just this never-ending turmoil of where are you? You know, and to have to think how you answer that to your own children, never mind to obviously Paul and Nicky's children. It's just an endless torment each day of hoping for something. So in my opinion, we just need all the lines of inquiries expanding, everywhere searching, you know, ground and water.
You ready?
For Nicola's family and friends, the river just isn't the answer. They can't accept what the police call their working hypothesis that she might have fallen in while walking her dog, Willow.
As soon as obviously the news was in that we think she's in the river, I think a lot of us looked at each other like, well, how and where? Which part? The part by the bench? Because there's a bench there for a reason that you can sit there. It's astonishing if you manage to fall in from there, really.
So if it's not an accident or criminal, could Nicola have chosen to leave?
No one ever knows anybody, do they? But in my opinion, she would never leave Paul and the girls. She would never leave her family. And so we are just left with this mystery that she's almost vanished into thin air.
So first of all, in this clip, you see where Willow is barking. I know there's a bowl beside her, but it just shows that Willow is a barker, where the family said that she's not usually a barker. And showing in this that Nicola's family and friends didn't believe the river theory at all. But also Charlotte says here that she didn't believe at all that Nicola would leave Paul and her children. Here's a picture of Paul when he was placing the yellow ribbon on the bridge. Here's the picture of the ribbon where it says, "Nicky, I love you," and there's kisses. And then it says, "Come home now." I found that a strange words, like instead of saying, "Nicky, please come home." You know, if he wanted her to come home, if he really thought she was out there, it would have been a nicer thing to say, "Please come home now," instead of "come home now." Like, it seems a bit more of an aggressive form of "come home." Especially like if he thought she really was out there. Like, imagine her seeing that, you know, "come home now."
It's a wonder how the people of this small, rural Lancashire village still have hope. But they do, and it's in bucket loads. It's all for Nicola Bulley, still missing, still not at home with her daughters. For them, 19 days without a mum. Almost every morning, Charlotte would say hi to Nicola. They've been neighbours for 5 years. She says since she disappeared, it's been hell.
You cannot have anything but hope and positivity. You have to trust that we're going to find something, because if we haven't got that, what have we got? Can't just give up, and she would never give up.
Giving up is just not an option for anyone. But during half term, with her kids at home, more and more questions are being asked.
She's one of us. That's, I think, why it's hit so many of us so hard around here, the women, the mums, because we've all done this walk. It feels like it could have been any one of us.
I think Charlotte's point here about it could have been any one of us was very telling. That some of the friends were afraid of that something had happened to Nicola when they said that it could have been any one of us. Because obviously she had said they didn't believe the river theory. And obviously at this stage they didn't know anything about Nicola's vulnerabilities. So they were thinking on the lines, some of them, that there possibly could have been third party, and that's why they were worried that it could have been any of them.
Charlotte, we all feel we know Nicola. We all feel that we're invested in her. We all feel she could live in our street as well. And her face over all the news bulletins and the newspapers, whatever. But you did know her. We don't know her. We think we know her. What sort of person is she?
I think the fact that people think they know her, they do know her, because everybody that's sharing what we're sharing about her is exactly how she is. She would do anything for anybody. She, on our street, we're only a street of five houses, and if you need anything, if you need any advice, if you need anything for the children, she's there. So I think that's why it's touched so many people's hearts, because she is exactly how people are painting the picture to be.
Charlotte, you know her partner Paul very well and her children. How are they coping?
It's just an impossible situation to put yourself in, and to see what they're going through every single day, trying to remain positive, trying to wait for news, wait for evidence, wait for just anything that they can discuss with the children. It's really heartbreaking to see what the whole family are going through on a daily basis, and it's just a constant cycle that the whole community is feeling for them every single day.
I know, and we all want it resolved, hopefully for the best. We hope she's just gone missing more than anything else. What effect does this have on you and your habits and people that you know living in the street or the community? You must all really think twice about walking by that river, or what is that apprehension like?
We've said it from day one. We've all done that walk. We all walk that river. We're all mums. We all do the drop off. We all don't think that we will go and do a walk like that and not come back. So it's really, really hit all mums, all women, I would say, in the area that do that, because we've all done it and we've all managed to not fall in. We know the terrain. It's not a walk that you don't know. And so it's really unnerved people, especially with the lack of evidence.
None of us know what's happened. We can all play at being amateur detectives, but somebody like you, who is a next-door neighbour, and you know her, and you'll have seen her with the door camera footage, packing up the car, putting the dog in the back, putting the kids in the car, heading off to school. You must have an instinct or a theory, or just questions you can't answer. What are the questions you can't answer? What is there eating away at you?
The thing that's eating away, I think, all of us on the street, is it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right that she would be in the water. And we've said that from day one. But obviously there's no evidence for any of the avenues of questioning. So it's really, where are her keys? Where are all these different things of hers? How can you just vanish into thin air? It seems impossible, and yet here we are.
And yet her phone was there, the dog harness was there, her Fitbit was there. Quite strange things. I mean, again, as I say, we're all trying to match it together. Why would this happen? Why would she have left this and not that? What do you say to that?
Well, her Fitbit wasn't there. They've still not found the Fitbit. So they're trying to track that, I believe. Her keys are believed to still be on her person. So for me, the keys, if they've dropped out anywhere, if anybody's found those, obviously that description hasn't come out. So if they've been handed into a garage, washed up somewhere, a lot of people won't know that they're related to the case. So for me, like something like that could drop out is quite key. But obviously the phone was left on the bench. The bench is quite far from the river, so to fall in, it's quite an accomplishment to fall in from that far back.
Charlotte, there's obviously a lot of police visibility in your community now. It's, the time is ticking day by day. What are the feelings and the relationship like between, your community and the police? Are people getting frustrated, because this will be impacting your life and as you know it?
I think from my interactions with Paul and Emma and seeing the police, they only have good things to say. They say they're working really hard to just try and find anything that can lead us. You know, we're all working towards the same goal. It's not a competition who can get the evidence first. We all just want the same thing, which is to bring Nikki back.
Yeah. And you know, Charlotte, if you walk out your front door today, you could bump into Paul, you could see him. Must be very difficult for you, you know, with the amount of days that have passed to strike up a conversation, or what do you say to him? What do you say?
Well, we're in regular contact with Paul next door. You know, we're helping with the girls. We're just trying to support as much as we can, because we are a small row of houses and we see each other every day. Paul is remaining positive. He has to remain positive for the girls.
Yeah.
And so for him, every single day is a chance to find something new, and we all support that, and we'll all keep going until there's something. Someone has to know something.
So you see here that Charlotte says that people were unnerved by this. Because they've all done that walk before, and none of them have never managed to fall in. You see, they're not foolish. They know the area so well, and they know the dangers. When Charlotte was asked then about what the community felt about the police and that, she says, well, from her interactions with Paul and Emma, they've, you know, good things to say about the police. But it just goes to show that Paul and Emma are the leaders in this whole situation. That both of them are leading the whole thing. Now moving on to Mark Williams Thomas. Mark was called in by the family. He said so in his interviews. Now, no sooner had Mark arrived in the village, by the request of the family, he receives information about the 10th of January incident, that there was a call out to the home. Now, that information could only have came from someone close by that knew this situation. It's not something that would be out there. Now, obviously, my first thought was, did it come from Paul himself? As he was the one that said to the police about the vulnerabilities and put them in the line of looking at the river. He was also the one that told Anne-Marie Fletcher that Nicola was struggling. And it was like he wanted this information to get out there. But I'm sure Mark Williams Thomas is not going to give up his source. But it doesn't have to necessarily mean that the information came directly from Paul. But we know throughout the case, Paul did use his friends to get information out there. But it was also Paul that requested Peter Falden come to the area and to check out the river. And I do wonder, was that to check if the river theory was believable? Because it brings me back to the point that nobody has come forward to say that they moved the harness to the bench in between Penny and Ron. Now, police wouldn't have been given family all the information, or anybody for that matter. But having Peter Falden there, he was given information directly to Paul of what he thought, his expert opinion. I'm not blaming Peter Falden at all, don't get me wrong, but he was given his expert opinion of the whole situation with the river there and what he thought would happen. And also mentioning, but that's obviously because what he heard afterwards about the vulnerabilities, that she could have went further down and went into the river. it could explain why her body was then later found in the river. And I think that it was placed in the river after the police had left the river. Anyway, in my opinion, it was Paul that placed the police at the river. And it was Paul that kept the focus on the river by telling the police about her vulnerabilities and about her struggling and her alcohol issues. It was Paul who brought Peter Falding in and kept the focus on the river for a time, and then brought the focus away from the river. It was Paul who told some of the family and friends that Nicola, her vulnerabilities had something to do with her disappearance, and that pointed in the direction that she had either ran off or was suicidal. It was Paul who used some of his friends to point at Rowan Water and the caravan park. It was Paul who used the mainstream media and social media. And I think it was Paul somehow let that information out to Mark Williams Thomas. And that's why, with all the confusion of the different directions that he has made us all look, that it makes me think of Mind Juice's comment about Operation Mindfuck. So now we're on to the 15th of February, where the press conference was held. And later on, after the press conference, the police go into details about Nicola's vulnerabilities, that she had significant issues with alcohol and she was suffering with perimenopause. Now, we know this came about because of the questions Mark Williams Thomas had put to the police. Now, we were told by Rebecca Smith that Nicola was put as a high-risk misper because of what Paul had told them after the first phone call. After this, Nicola's friend Nadia Fell puts up a post on Facebook, #Lancashire Police, you were bang out of order, and lots of angry faces. Also on the same evening, on the 15th, Nadia Fell puts up a post on Facebook. Nikki, I know you haven't got your phone, but if by miracle you see this, please know you are so loved. If you need a safe place, Mia's room is sat empty. You can have it, no questions asked. We just need to know you are okay. We all miss you. You know where I am. Now, this post created a lot of controversy because she had said, if you need a safe place. People were wondering, was there something going on in the household? She also didn't put up another post to rectify what she meant about this post. But you can also see by these posts that she had no idea of what was going on in the background about these vulnerabilities. This was news to her. So she had a reaction. So also on the 15th of February, Grizzly True Crime comes back to do the live press conference. Before the press conference, she goes into details about Andrew Lawson and Rebecca Smith and the details of what their work consists of. So that after the press conference, she starts off by talking about the alcohol issues, which were brought on by her ongoing struggles with menopause. And she said, of course, there were also some financial strain going on, as we know, just from the companies and the compulsive strike-off that they were notified about in early December. And things like that, there's a lot to add to this. Right, there's a lot that can make a person feel either a lot of pain, a lot of stress, and a lot of shame. Whatever it is, so mental health is a strong factor to consider, and it so often is in a missing person's case. It's not something to not consider. You know what I mean? It's always, no matter what, as I say, victimology, we've got to look at everything right now. They say these struggles had resurfaced over recent months, and this caused some real challenges for her partner Paul and the family. She goes on to say that she thought this was a great move from them, but damn, at last, day 20. On day 20, you're going to look into the social media accounts, and on day 20, you're going to tell the world, oh, by the way, she's a high-risk missing person, vulnerable, because of this, because of a number of factors. She goes on then again to say that, you know, just a few days ago, I replayed Nicola's family interview, meaning, you know, her sister, and she was saying, don't worry, whatever it is, we'll sort it out. Just come back. Or if she's gone off on her own, we just want her back. Remember that I got a lot of emails from that. You know, it does make some sense that, you know, they could have had a hunch that she was really stressed or, you know, really going through something. So this is why I think it would be important from day one in future cases, in all cases, to tell the public and don't hide things like that. Because it's important that the public looks out for these people everywhere. We're talking about probably 8 days ago, shelters, looking at, you know, at homeless shelters as well, and all kinds. I don't want to say domestic violence shelters because that's not what we're exploring, that avenue. Normally with these risk factors, if you go through the list, there's a whole separate one. I know people go there, you know, and they think that everyone's trying to blame the partner, but I'm not going to go down that road. So the thing is, they should look everywhere. Look in the pub, look in a field, look in the public, look in other areas. I mean, just keep your eyes peeled, which is also why I say, if there is any immediate sighting, call 999. She goes on again to say that what Paul had mentioned about what was different that morning, that there wasn't a lot of rushing and everything was ready to go and organised. She goes on about Paul contacting Nicola that morning and about the caravan park lady and why nobody picked up the phone between 10:30 and 10 to 11. Someone mentioned something in comments then, and she says, thank you so much. She says, menopause has a significant effect on mental health, and when combined with struggles with alcohol, and I'm going to add possibly also finances and all of that. So menopause struggles with alcohol, maybe there's financial pressure, and you know how it goes, like over Christmas and New Year's, you know, seasonal depression can also hit. So there's that as well. So she goes on about the harness being found on the ground between the bench and the river, and said it's not too far from where she would usually apparently put the harness back on. She wouldn't generally, from what she had heard, put the harness back on Willow, like right there at the bench, but more like a little bit behind the bench by the lower field area, before you exit the kissing gate. But still it wasn't too far off from right there. She also goes on to say about things that were different that morning. the fact that she was more organised that morning and had everything ready to go, and that her hair was in a ponytail. And by the pictures that he had seen, and also from hearing from the family friends, that it's not a usual thing that she would put her hair up in a ponytail like that. And she says again, so it's not usual for her to put her hair up like that. And she's organised, you know, so ready to go here in a ponytail. I don't know, it seems like she's on a mission. She's ready to go, you know, but maybe that day she's just particularly organised. She goes on about Caravan Park Lady again, and honestly, she thinks that she was more upset about the dog not being on a leash. I think that's what her focus was. That this dog is not on a leash. I'm tying this dog up with twine and then I'm marching off to my appointment. She said she asked about the dog collar and the tag that was on the dog collar, and that she was told that it was the vet's name and a telephone number on it. She's not sure if it was the parents of Willow, if it was their phone number that was on it. And about Caravan Park Lady, she seemed like she was, and she said she's just speculating here. I think the Caravan Park Lady was just upset about it not being on the leash, and I'm going to sort this out now. Really, maybe not seeing the bigger picture of, well, the owner of the dog is actually missing. You know, it could be that. She was asked about the press conference and the police saying that the cameras were working at Rowanwater. And she was asked how did she know that one of the CCTV cameras wasn't working. And that she knows from the sources that she's talking to that were out there on the Saturday morning and walking around and talking to the Caravan Park Lady's sister and brother-in-law. And they'd set a whole bunch of information, including that Willow was running actually between the bench and the stile and trying to get over the stile. And that's interesting. She talks about the blind spots and about the red van that was seen on Hall Lane. And a tree surgeon said that if there's a red van there, someone's up to no good. She talks about the unoccupied house and how it was searched 3 times. And then talks about Danny, who got arrested for trespassing and all that kind of stuff. And that when he was out there, he came across some kind of smell. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know, but the thing is, you see, is that it's a real blind spot. You could literally walk out there, turn left, and you wouldn't be seen. She talked about Paul searching an abandoned house himself between the village hall and Ivy Dean alpacas. And she had asked a family friend about this. And sometimes they walked on Hall Lane, and it was something like a conversation they had, maybe about that area. She then goes on about the rumour on Twitter, saying that Paul had changed his Facebook name to Sam Beckett, a character from a TV series who disappeared and never came home. And she says, remember that today at the press conference, they said, don't worry about all the social media. They're going to be digging in. So if you see Nicola's accounts active, and I can only imagine that digging into, of course, Paul's social media and Nicola's social media, the friends, the DMs, everything, they might have changed that. But we know it was actually Paul who changed his name to Sam Beckett. Now that makes me wonder, is that the reason why he changed the name when police were going to be looking at the social media, when they had announced that they were going to be looking at the social media? Someone mentions in her comments then about, Gisela, you should go across the pond and go and be boots on the ground. And then she says, I mean, I can't say the thought didn't cross my mind, but damn, the way that it's just like if you were out there, it's like you're a ghoul, you're not wanted by the locals. They're freaking out and just like, get out of here. You're getting arrested and all that. I don't know. It sounds pretty scary. She's then asked a question in the comments about the GoFundMe and why was a GoFundMe set up if family and friends were aware of her struggles? And her answer would be, well, they probably needed help. If you feel like, oh, I'm losing confidence, probably meaning the police, and they were going to organise their own searches. Now, as I said before, setting up that GoFundMe, and if they did, if like they already knew about these struggles and all, and they suspected that it was something to do with that, like surely they would have known that it would have been an insult to Nicola if she came back. So also on the 15th of February, Talk TV done an interview.
Simon Harding still with me, and joining now are Peter Folding, diver and forensic search expert who has been assisting in the search for Nicola, and Mark Williams-Thomas, an investigative journalist and former police detective. Welcome both. Mark, can I start with you, my friend, please? Who do you believe, the police or the husband?
So let me be very clear. For the last couple of days, I've come up here having had very close contact with the police and also with the family. And I can tell you that I've received information over the last couple of days which has caused me to ask the police a number of significant questions. And this evening, of course, they've now released further information. I was told about something that had gone on within the family environment, which
Now, you see here where he says he was told something that went on in the family environment. He says in other interviews, it was about the 10th of January, about the call out, to the home. And this information, like this is private medical information. And this could have only came from someone close to the family. Like that information wouldn't be just out there. Like, all right, maybe if she was drinking extra alcohol or stuff like that, you know, local people might know stuff like that or whatever. But this incident could only have come from someone close to the family. So it's like somebody wanted that information to get out there to point the police in a certain way.
Obviously puts a different light to it. Let's be very clear, the media strategy has been appalling. I spoke to the police yesterday in real detail and they accepted that they had got much of that wrong, which is why there was a press conference this morning led by the ACC and the SIO. You know, Simon makes some absolutely valid points. The problem is they came out at the very beginning and said, we've got three hypotheses, but actually our main focus is that she's gone in the water, where they should have left that completely open. And I do believe they should have come out, they should have spoken to the family and said, listen, it's really important that we notify the public. This is a massive story now that she is a high-risk missing person, because if she hasn't gone into the water, she may well have taken herself off away somewhere else. And of course, that's a really important thing when you're dealing with missing persons, to make the public aware so they can keep an eye at her. Let's be clear, the fact that we now know this information doesn't change everything, because it still comes down to this point of, if she had gone in the water, are they suggesting that she jumped into the water to commit suicide? Now, if she did that, the chances of dying jumping into the water are very, very slim. So is it more likely she could have gone away from the area to do whatever herself? The position is, Clearly her state of mind was in a difficult position at this time, and what we now need to do, and I wish the police had come out openly at the very beginning, help the family. It's not for the family to decide whether or not this information's released, it's down to the police, and I think they got their media strategy completely wrong.
Now you see here where Mark, he's kind of, after things he's after learning and was told and stuff like that, he's kind of changed his mind now, and he's not talking about third party. He's talking about, well, if the police has evidence or is still looking at the river, could they think that she went in by suicide? Or could she have ran off? You know, talking about stuff like that. So now, after what he's learned, he's kind of been persuaded in that direction. And after speaking with the family for the few days, as he said, the fact is, Nicola's state of mind was in a difficult position. And the family is getting him now to look in a different direction, like that she had ran off, trying to get people away from the river now.
Very honest, actually, Mark, to be fair. And I don't mean this, I don't want this to be about criticising the police, but Simon has said it and you've said it, media strategy. And it doesn't say a lot to the general public, and this is what I'm doing the show for tonight. They must be thinking, well, no disrespect to you or Peter, there's a police force, and now it takes an ex-police officer to come up and tell them where they've got it wrong. That doesn't fill us full of confidence about the Lancashire Police Force, does it?
You see here, he even points to the fact like that Peter and Mark was asked to come in, and it doesn't give you confidence in the police, the fact that outside experts had to be called in. But if you look at it in a way, by them being called in like that, it created a big distraction to the police.
It's a real shame. I spoke with the police and DLT yesterday, and they did acknowledge and said that we've got some of these things wrong. The points you've made and the points you've been making over the last few days are absolutely valid, and we're going to try and address those things. The problem is you know, we're into the third week now, which is absolutely ridiculous. We shouldn't have been here. Yeah. And the public are so crucial in this. If she hasn't gone into the water, then where is she? And the public are the eyes and the ears of the police. The police are at an all-time low as far as confidence, and it hasn't helped the way that this has played out in the media and the way the police have got the strategy wrong.
Can I bring Peter in? Peter, thank you for joining us again. I have so much I want to say to you. The first thing is this. You told me last week you searched that river high and low. You, on my show, ruled out that Nicola was in that river, the River Wye. Why is it that tonight we still hear, allegedly, that Lancashire police still believe that's their main thought, if you want? I don't understand that, and neither does the public, Peter.
Well, Jeremy, if I'd known this information on day one, I've worked on complex murders and cases, missing people since 1999. If I'd been given that information, and I am trusted, that wouldn't have been handed to the media, it would have been confidential, and I would have changed my whole search strategy. I assumed, Jeremy, that Nicola had slipped into the river, and it's only 2 foot deep at the bottom of the bank. And that's why I've been so adamant that she's not in that part of the river. We've thoroughly searched it. If she had jumped in or intended to take her own life or walked off or wherever she is, that would change my whole plan. She could have ended up in the sea. But everything, it's changed this, and it's really annoyed me.
In terms of, I read this, tell me if it's wrong, you've faced a barrage of criticism and out of total respect, I think, for the family, you've given your services for free and you keep coming back. I now read or hear that you're going to be part of a land search, and don't take this the wrong way, I thought your expertise was diving. And again, I would say to you, as I said to Mark, what does it say about this police investigation that there need to be contractors from outside giving their services for free and coming and helping out?
No, actually, Jeremy, my expertise is I've specialised in land search. I've worked on April Jones. I've worked on the Peter Tobin case. I find buried human remains. So that's where I work. So it's awful. This is an awful case, and I just wish it had been handled a lot better in the first place by giving certain information that would have helped us target our search in specific areas.
Are you angry with the police?
I'm not. I understand. I work with the police every day. It's not angry with the police. I'm angry at their comms and the trust. I mean, normally I'm trusted with highly confidential information. It never goes anywhere. And if I'd been told on the day that Nicola was high risk, she was vulnerable, then I would have treated my whole search totally different, and we would have looked at potential other areas with all the expertise we've got. We have our own helicopter up there as well. And, so I understand that they have to withhold certain information. I understand that. But giving it to me would have assisted the operation a lot easier.
Now, you see here with Peter, it just goes to show that he uses his expertise at all times because he's not easily swayed. He still keeps all options open until there is evidence to prove otherwise. Even talking about land searches here, and he said that if he had known some details that he wouldn't have told anybody, he would have changed that search strategy to include land searches. So he's not going with any option. He's keeping them all on the table by saying that. Even after finding out this new information about the vulnerabilities, he wasn't swayed in any direction. He was keeping all options open. My only concern here is that he may have been used unbeknownst to himself and then used again as a scapegoat.
Simon, pretty damning. Both Mark and Peter saying that the comms, certainly, the media approach has hindered this case. And you touched upon in our first part about what this family are going through. And one can only imagine now, for Paul and his two daughters, hearing this, they must be at their wits' end.
Yeah, and I think a point that Peter makes there, I think there's another side to that, is that Peter, for all the good intentions he has, is not entitled to that information unless he's been brought in by the police. So you wouldn't give Peter certain information about that. So I don't think that, unless he was brought in as a additional...
But here's my question. Why would they allow him to be brought in if they weren't prepared to give him information to help in the search? What's the point?
Well, I guess you can't stop him if you don't have the area sealed off. That's one of the issues.
Well, let's ask him. Peter, did you do this off your own back? Or as Simon says, were you... Because you've said, I'm annoyed that I didn't have that information, and Simon is implying that you wouldn't have that because the police didn't, ask you or what? I don't know. Help me out.
No. I was actually being tasked by the police search advisor by Lancashire Police on this job. I was tasked with specific areas. So I was tasked, actually, Simon, and no disrespect to you, but actually the police were tasking me. The search advisor, the pollster on the scene, as I always get tasked. We offered our services, but I was specifically briefed by the police search advisor on this particular job.
And in all fairness, that would explain his anger today, that he wasn't given the full story. Mark, if I can bring you back in, and this is just me, this is just my reaction personally to what I heard today. I watched that press conference. I got the feeling that it was a bit panicky. I got the feeling that it was a little bit orchestrated, and as a result of the media and public pressure. Going forward a little bit, you're there. Is their strategy changing? What are we, the public, let alone the family, supposed to make of what happens next? I mean, for example, if Peter's right, could this poor woman be further downstream? Because I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you make some very valid points there, Jeremy. I'm certainly speaking to the police yesterday, and my conversations with them today was to really put some pressure on the SIO and say, the vulnerability, the information that I've been given. You know, when I come in and do an investigation, I really go back to the very beginning, and it's amazing the amount of people that have provided me with information over the last 48 hours, telling me exactly what her state of mind and what was going on. Police hadn't released that. I put them under pressure today and yesterday and said, listen, you've got to be much more open. What is going on? And this afternoon I got some further information and pressed them on the fact that, you know, what has been the attendance of this at this house in relation to the emergency services. And of course we had this rush press release out this evening.
See, it looks here like this was done to create chaos with the police.
They are changing their strategy. The senior officers within Lancashire have acknowledged that there is some failings here. You know, it's not now, isn't the right time to be reviewing that, but there will be in due course. What we now need to focus on is the reality of where Nicola could be. And there's two simple points. I mean, one of the questions I put to the police today is, you know, are they believing that she went in the water to commit suicide? You know, or is there another means to this? The problem is down here is the water flow is incredibly slow. You know, the water on that day was only very slightly higher than it is now. And in order to drown in that water, you would have to have gone in there, you know, unconscious in some way, or gone in there to prevent yourself from starting to breathe. There is another, of course, option, is that she took herself away from that. She simply put the phone there, left the dog and went away. We don't know the answer to that. And let's be very clear for both, you know, Paul and the family. And I, you know, I have been in contact with them very closely in regards to, you know, my coming up here and also talking to the police. They are still living with the anguish of not knowing what's happened to Nicola. So whilst we're all saying, okay, it paints a very different picture, the reality is we still don't know where she is. And I'd still urge everybody out there to still keep providing information, still keep looking, because she hasn't just vanished. She is somewhere. And there is a strong possibility she is not in that water. She could be somewhere else.
Again, from speaking to family and friends, being pointed in the direction that she had went off.
Mark, thank you for now. More from you later. Just to finish with you, Peter Folding, what's your next course of action? You've admitted your annoyance at not having all the facts. With what's come out today, what's next for you and your team, my friend?
Well, Jeremy, I've offered my services. I'd quite happily work along. I'm a trusted expert with the National Crime Agency. I'd quite happily come up and assist Lancashire Police, build that relationship. We had a good relationship on the day. I want to say that. I've got the greatest respect for the police. I work with them constantly. I will come up and assist. We got ground penetration radar. I've got 20 plus years of experience of specialist search, and that's why I do this. And I'm quite happily to bring my resources up to assist if they wish, and the offer is open, and build that relationship and work with them to try and help them.
So you see here, Peter doesn't even want to say anything bad about anyone. He wants to find Nicola. That's all he's interested in. He offered these services for free. You know, that's all he's interested in.